All right. Can I tell you about something that I kind of knew about, but has recently blown my mind?
Yeah.
It's the Thiel Fellowship. So
Yeah, it's amazing.
what the Thiel Fellowship is. Ben, I'm curious. Do you know what the Thiel Fellowship is? Come off mute for a bit. Because I think Sam already knows. I want to talk to somebody who's maybe more where the audience is, which may, aware but not familiar.
Yeah, so I know what the Thiel Fellowship is. I'll tell you just my impression as someone who doesn't know a ton about it is just that it's for essentially high schoolers who are super geniuses, and Peter Thiel is going to give you a bunch of money in order to not go to college and do something cool instead.
Kind of. It's actually, I think it's actually for people in college to leave college for a year. So $100K to basically leave college for a year and work on something interesting. And Ben, if I asked you like, hey, is it like successful, unsuccessful? Do you have any idea?
No, except for that I know what's his name did it. The guy who did Ethereum.
Vitalik. Yeah, exactly.
Vitalik. Yeah.
So
Which, by the way, I still haven't told my Vitalik story on air, which is I was in Amsterdam and I saw him and I couldn't think what to say. And he's walking right past me and I just turned and went, "You're Vitalik." And he didn't like look or say anything. He just kept walking, but it was him.
Did he have security with him?
No, he was walking all alone on the streets of Amsterdam at 8 a.m. in the morning. It was just us.
Our software is the worst.
Have you heard of HubSpot?
See, most CRMs are a cobbled together mess, but HubSpot is easy to adopt and actually looks gorgeous.
I think I love our new CRM. Our software is the best.
HubSpot. Grow better.
Yeah, we need to protect this man. He never has security with him, and he's just like wanders around to random cafes and goes to events and stuff like this. I'm like, dude, yeah, I really hope he's got such good security that you just can't see them. That's what I'll tell myself. So this Thiel Fellowship thing is amazing. The Thiel Fellowship was exactly what you said. Peter Thiel comes out. Peter Thiel is the kind of original founder of PayPal. He was the first investor in Facebook, put $500K into Facebook early on, which became hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars. And also, prolific investor in a bunch of other things, including SpaceX and other businesses. So Peter Thiel comes out and he basically says, college education is a bubble. He says, college education is sort of a joke. He's like, it hides under this like banner, like it's teaching you something, like you're getting information, but really what you're getting is some version of like an insurance policy. Like I got this degree, so I'm not going to fall through the cracks of society. And you're getting like, some status symbol, like, oh, I got this stamp on my thing. So it's like a luxury product, like wearing a nice bag. Your Harvard degree is like your Louis Vuitton bag. And so he talks about college and he's like, costs just keep going up and up and up, but the value and the salaries that you make don't go up. And so it's this like overpriced bubble, just like the housing bubble. He says, I'm going to offer something called the Thiel Fellowship, which is $100,000 if you drop out of college and go work on something interesting. And a bunch of people criticize him. They say, dude, how dare you? You're telling kids, like the normal phrase is kids stay in school. You're like, we get it. You're contrarian. You're saying kids don't stay in school. And you're like trying to get people to drop out. Like what kind of like, you're worse than a vape, And so, people didn't like what he was doing. And other people were just like, oh, it's cool. But like, who knows if this is going to work or not? Like, all right, you're going to pay this kid $100,000 to, do a summer project. Great. So what? This thing is amazing. It is produced.
Yeah, it worked out really well, didn't it?
And nobody talks about it. So let me tell you some of the things that have come out of this. You have, like you said, Ethereum, which is like a $170 billion market cap thing that came from Vitalik. Probably like this generation's version of Facebook is like, is Ethereum. So that comes out of this, where Vitalik does the Thiel Fellowship and continues working on Ethereum during that time. And he launches. So that's one super, super, super successful thing. Also, Figma, which is like a somewhere between $5 and $10 billion
closer to 10
company that takes on Adobe in the design space. And Dylan, who is the founder of Figma, was in the Thiel Fellowship. Another one, Oyo Rooms. So this is in India. It's like a kind of like a Airbnb-ish sort of thing. It's like a hospitality website. Oyo Rooms, multi-billion-dollar company.
Tens of billions,
Luminar,
I think.
Luminar Technologies. Most people don't know this. It's a like LiDAR company that basically the technology you need for self-driving cars. And this thing, I think, went public in a SPAC. This guy's like, I don't know, 21, 22 years old, 23 years old, something like that. And he's worth like $1 billion. He's like one of the world's youngest billionaires, if not the youngest billionaire off of this thing. That is just alone is crazy. Also, Polkadot, another crypto protocol valued at, $7 billion. Like I just told you basically $200 billion worth of business value that has come from this program. And it's,
but then there's way
small.
more. There's actually like dozens that are in like the $100 million range. I invested in a company that recently raised another round. I think it was owner.com. The guy, Adam, he was a Thiel fellow. And I believe, that potentially could be a unicorn, but it's hundreds of millions for sure. And there's like dozens more like that.
The reason I got reminded of this was because I invested in Italic, and Jeremy Kai is the founder of Italic. And he was like, oh yeah, I was a Thiel fellow. That's how I was like, how did we meet eventually? He's like, oh yeah, I was a Thiel fellow. We came to your office and you gave a talk and I thought it was awesome. And so that's why we kept in touch. And I was like, dude, was Vitalik in the room? He's like, I don't think he was at that event, but he's like, dude, he used to like crash on our couch. Like, he was part of the program. And he's like, I was like, what was he like? He's like, he's genuinely the weirdest person ever. Like the weirdest person I've ever met. And like, he's like, yeah, in a good way, in a bad way. Nothing like, he's just nothing like I've ever seen. Just different sort of cat. And I was like, this is too good.
I think you should keep using the word cat, by the way.
You like how I did that? I've been it's something I'm workshopping right now.
Yeah, it looks good on you.
I take it out for a spin. I take it out of the garage, twice a week, and I just see, do people kind of like flinch when I say that? It was a good flinch. Tried it with Lit, and I had to put that one back in storage.
No,
that
you're
one's
too
not
old.
coming back out. I put that one on eBay, actually, got rid of it.
Yeah, no, you're too much of a gray bush for that one. But Cat, yeah, Cat was cool. I would stick with Cat. But it is crazy, man. The Peter Thiel, I thought at first it was real. It was kind of stupid. I'm like, dude, this is weird. Like, what are these like little 18-year-old nerds? Like, they're not going to do anything interesting. Obviously, I was wrong. When I was like rethinking my opinion on it, I was like, wow, I guess just like high IQ matters. Like these guys, they have more power than I do. I always say you're higher functioning than me. That's just the only way I can describe it. You have more horsepower. Your oven burns hotter, and it actually it truly matters, and it makes a difference.
Your oven burns hotter is so good. Oh God, I love that. That was
you know what I mean? They just got that. They got that
totally.
That heater furnace.
That's how I felt when I was at Twitch. I was like, okay, let's see what are the like. 'Cause, I had kind of had opinions from the outside. Like, okay, at these big tech companies, what are the people like? What are the execs like? What are the average people like? How hard do they work? How smart are they? Like, do they have like all these processes that are way better than the messy stuff I was doing at my startup? And like, for the most part, I would say it's kind of like, I walked out a little cockier than I came in, and I came in pretty cocky. And that's what I was, just sort of like, oh, okay. Like, they don't have some magic, processes, or the people aren't that much better, except like 2 or 3 people at the company. One of which was Emmett, who's the founder. We would sit down and there would be like, data science would be presenting some report on like, some trends. And I'm just sitting there trying to like, it's a 6-page memo. I'm trying to like stop yawning, because it's like, I'm just like, why do I keep yawning? I'm having this like, reflex, and I'm reading this thing. I'm just trying to understand these charts. And like, you just hear this little click, and it's like someone's pen is down. And it's like, if you're taking a math test, like, who's done with the test already? And it would be Emmett. He'd be like, pen's down. He'd be playing Hearthstone on his phone. And you're like, no, he must have already read this, or like, he must just skim. And then they're like, all right, yeah, we're ready to start the discussion. And he would be like, so on page 3, this chart, actually, I noticed that the axis is a little wrong, because, if this was true, then this other chart on page 7 would show this. I'm like, what what is happening? How is your brain processing this much information this quickly, and somehow always getting to like the heart of the issue? It's like, we all spent our time and energy like trying to parse out what's important. Like, he immediately got to what was important, and had the conclusion, and had like the follow-up question, and also identified why this paper wasn't very good in the first place. And once I saw the brain doing that, I was like, oh, okay, there's just some cars, have more horsepower, like, or as you said, the oven burns a little hotter, and like his oven burns way hotter than mine. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. Like, because I have this thing I always say, I like to see what level 12 looks like. Like, that speaker system's a little too loud for me, but like, I want to know what volume on 12 even is. I want to feel, my own chest, like vibrating with the bass. And it's like, okay, I don't want to be somebody who never sees it. I want to see it.
What was he like in like real life, like outside of work? Because have you ever seen some of these people interact in like normal like life? Like I told you about one friend that's like intense, and he literally only owns two t-shirts, one pair of underwear, one pair of socks, and his laptop. That's like the only thing he owns, and he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And then like I know a bunch of these guys that are like this, and like for hobbies, they're just all in. And like so if they're into like like fucking their body or something, they've got like every gadget you could ever imagine, and they could tell you all about it. And or if they're into dieting, they've got like like my friend Jack, he's into supplements, and he's got literally $30,000 worth of supplements in a closet, and they'd be like, "What's this do? What's this do? What's this do?" And he just like tests everything. What was he like in was he like if he's into cars, could he like tell you every single thing about like a Porsche and what year it was from and why it was special?
Yeah, yes. But before I tell you about him, I just read this thing that was like about Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google. And it's like, oh, what is Sergey, like, because he's in the news because of his wife and Elon and all that stuff. And some people are like, what is Sergey doing nowadays? Because I don't think he's at Google anymore. And it said over the last year or two, he's become very into personal fitness. In fact, he has been trying to master several Olympic sports. And I was like, what?
Dude, I don't know, man. I looked at this guy. What Olympic sport? Ping pong?
Yeah,
I don't know.
archery.
Like skeet shooting? Yeah.
Curling.
Yeah.
The other one is, it said he's currently writing a physics textbook. And I was like, of course he's writing a physics textbook. Like,
that's more like
come
it.
on.
Yeah.
So anyways, these guys are wired like that, where like when they go in like very deep. And honestly, I don't know him super well because I interacted with him mostly at work. And anytime it was outside of work, it was really cool, but it was like, limited. It wasn't like I hung out with him like 100 times. It would maybe be more like 5 times, something like that over the couple of years that I was there. What I would say is like a couple of little things that stood out. One, he's like us. He's an idea machine. In fact, I need to get him on the podcast because
you've been saying that for 3 years now.
I know. And when I was there, I didn't ask him because I was like, already, me doing this podcast is not a, not like
yeah, you're like, hey, dude, you want to bail at noon and go and record?
Yeah, it's not everyone's favorite thing I do. But I think now I can do it. But he would he told me this idea. He's like, I tell you about his gym idea.
No.
He's like gyms need to be made like video games. If I was going to leave Twitch, I might start this. A gym that's structured like a video game. So he's like, this is how it works. You show up and you're like the beginning character of a game. Like you show up and we give you kind of like your basic uniform, and we have a little wrist strap that like tracks your level of like fitness and intensity as you work out, and you basically level up. And so like every time you come to the gym, you're earning points. And like as you earn points, like we give you like better gear. Like we'll give you the more fitted, clothes that look cooler. And so you can like visibly see people's different levels as they go to the gym. You would be able to like go into certain sections of the gym that were previously locked to you. You would be able to get like protein shakes and stuff for free. And he's like, I think if you gamified a gym, people would come more. And like, actually, this is kind of played out with Peloton. Peloton is very much organized like this with leaderboards and stuff like that, gamification. But I was like, this is a crazy idea. He's like, yeah, it'd be like the World of Warcraft of gyms. Like people would grind like years of their life to level up their character to 60, and they would like work to do it. He's like, I think you could do that with a gym. I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, people do that with like karate and jujitsu, black belt, brown belt, blue belt type of thing.
Exactly. And they stick with it and they keep showing up because
for 10 plus years.
Up. And he's like, but you don't want the increments to be like a year before you see some progress. Like every time you come, you need to be earning a little bit more and getting a little bit more unlocked, and see that the next milestone is just within reach. So I thought that was interesting. The second one, he was like, he was like trying to plug in the computer to like screen share one time with me. Like normally these meetings are like set up by somebody else, but like if it's just you two, like, hey, you got to do it, plug it in. And he's like, these fucking cables. He's like, honestly, I think I could create like the Apple for like accessories, for computer accessories. He's like, just like the best connecting cables, the best cable management, the best plugs. He's like, look at this. It's like every office in the world has these. And look at how bad they look, how ugly they are, how poorly they function. That's a really good idea. How confusing they are. He's like, I think you could just build like a really nicely designed cables and connectors and accessories company for every office in the country, and like people would pay for it. And I was like, huh, like, why do you think of these things? Like, this is weird. And so
That's what people say about you.
He had a dozen ideas that were like this when I was there. All right, that's one thing that I noticed.
We'll wrap this up real quick, but there's this famous story. So this guy named Chris Sacca was a popular investor and invested in Instagram and a bunch of other stuff in Uber, and he's supposed to be one of the best angel investors of all time. He told this story somewhere where he is in Tahoe or Truckee, where he has a home, and he's with his dad, and Travis Kalanick, right when he was about to start Uber, came over to just spend the weekend, a family vacation. And Travis and Chris Sacca's dad, Mr. Sacca, they start playing Wii tennis. And Travis is playing and the dad's playing, and they just are being casual. And Travis was like, all right, you want to step it up? So he steps it up and he just crushes him. And he just beats this guy so bad. And Mr. Sacco was like, what the hell, man? And Travis goes, I've got a surprise to show you. And he puts the Wii from his left hand into his right hand. He goes, I was playing left-handed the whole time. I'm actually right-handed. Let's really play. And Travis goes, all right, but I do have to tell you something. And they go to the ratings board, and he's number 2 in the whole world at Wii tennis. And Chris Sacca was like, right then and there, I realized I never want to compete against this guy because his drive and his hobby is winning. And he just proved that in his free time of starting this company, he's just going to be number 1 in the world at Wii tennis just because he has to. And he just hustled my dad thinking that he was left-handed, and it worked perfectly. This guy is a winner. And that's why Chris Sacca said he invested in him. It's like, I just see his intensity in just walking around.
Dude, 100% agree. Peter Thiel is the same way. He's like a master or grandmaster at chess. And in the PayPal Mafia, which is now the most successful entrepreneur group ever, I think several of them were very, very high level chess players that have gone through that, we're in that thing. There's something to the oven burns hotter that's true for some of these people. It's a combination of intensity and capability. That is definitely true. Another kind of Emmett observation that I was like, huh, that's weird. That doesn't seem normal. So I guess 2 little ones. One was, I was like, what do you do for fun? When you hang out, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I love board games. He's like, you should come over for a board game night. And I was like, okay, what are we playing? Monopoly, Twister, what do we got going here? And he's like, he just looked at me we only play deep strategy games. And it was we only play Catan on hard mode, or even Catan is the beginner one. He name 2 other games I don't even know about that are this the board games that are actually multi-level, multi-hour strategy games. And basically it was him and the brothers from Stripe and the founder of Reddit, and they would just get together and play these games on the weekend. That's what they did.
That's
for fun.
Exactly how I want them to spend their time.
Exactly. So I thought that was kind of funny. And then the other one was we were in a meeting and we were talking about I don't know, some policy, these, whatever. Yes. Some girl streaming on Twitch and her nipples showing, is that okay? But it's she lives in Denmark. What are the rules around this? Should we ban her or what? And so there was always these policy questions coming up over and over and over again. And it felt like you can't win because whatever Twitch did, it was oh, dude, they're trying to control us, censor us. They're inconsistent. They should have also changed it over here. It was a no-win policy. And then, he would have these he would have these hobbies, which is reading old books that nobody would read. No normal person's reading these books. And then he'd be able to connect the dots on 2 completely unrelated things. It's sort of like Ben's podcast stuff where it's oh, actually the Rothschilds similarly set this up in a, set up their will in a weird way because of this. Maybe you should do this. Dude, how do you know all this really specific stuff from history? He would be do you know how the potato farmers governed their farms in the Netherlands during the potato drought? And then the head of policy at Twitch is no, just tell me what. He's actually they created this governing council that was blah, 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 blah. And the cool thing about this rule of law was blah, blah, blah. Maybe we should, you should read that. Tell me what you think about it. And they're all right, where do I find this out of print book that you read randomly and you remember what the potato farmers did? And so he would always bring these really unrelated examples in. That was one thing. And the other one was he would debate you over semantics to death. So you would be it'd be an exec offsite. He'd be and somebody would be I just feel we don't have enough trust on the team. And everyone's nodding yeah, he's collaboration is a problem or whatever. And he'd be well, is it trust or collaboration? Because trust means this and collaboration means this. And they're well, just the general trust, collaboration, just like working together better. And he's like, but like, again, define for me what you mean when you say trust. I just want to make sure I have it right. And he's not trying to like, it's not a gotcha. He's like a hyper literal person. So he's like, when you say it's failing, I take that to mean it's failing. Is it failing or is it this other thing? And people are like just getting lost in the sauce of this like semantical debate. But like he really wanted to be hyper literal about it. And I've never seen anybody do this in a, there were upside, that gave a bad example here, but like, I think you understand the general premise, which is that he really cared about words, what they mean, and why we're using them, and if we're using them correctly to describe what's going on. And everybody else was kind of hand wavy about stuff, especially like the higher you go up in an organization, you sort of get paid for being sort of hand wavy like a politician. And he was the opposite of that. So these were some of the things I noticed that now when I invest in founders, I'm like I invested in this guy who created this company called Skio. And he's like, yeah, I'm this like, I was like, what'd you do before this? He's like, oh, I was a professional Call of Duty player. Like before that, I was, I was like grinding in World of Warcraft. Like it was a waste of time, but like, yeah, it was, top 3 in the world or whatever. It's like, what? Oh, you were like a top 3 StarCraft player, like, in this on the East Coast server. Like, okay, you're a winner and you're obsessive and you are like, you find the rules of the game and then you like optimize to win it. And sure enough, now like with his thing, he's just like a wrecking ball with like acquiring customers because he just this is the new game and he's like finding rules and he's like maximizing his edge in everything that he can do to the point where he's kind of like a nut job. Dude, but like, it works.
At the end of episodes like this, I'm exhausted. I feel like I just exerted so much energy, both listening and speaking. Do you have to take a nap at the end of this? Because you just spoke like with incredibly high energy we've done this we're an hour and 17 minutes in. Do you get exhausted? I take naps after.
No, not at all.
Really?
I leave these on a high.
So do I, but then I need to go to
always.
You never have water. I usually drink 3 drinks while I'm doing these, but like I'm exhausted. I get exhausted just listening.
Well, that's probably my fault. So I'm sorry.
It's a good exhausted. I'm like, God, I just learned so much and I need to get so much better at this, and this by hearing this story. And I was just so intensely listening and enthralled by this conversation that I need a nap. I've got to go lay down. I got to go rest.
Balaji went on Tim Ferriss's podcast and did like a 3-hour podcast. And I listened to it last night. And like literally while it was happening, I could feel my brain fatiguing, just trying to like digest what this man was saying. He's so, and by the way, you also hear Tim Ferriss sound. I love Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss sounds like an absolutely defeated man on these podcasts with Balaji, because Balaji would be like, anarcho, on one hand you have the woke capitalists, on the other hand you have the anarcho capitalists. Do you know what I mean when I say that? And Tim's like, no, tell me. And like that happens 40 times in the episode. He's like, are you familiar with the concept of the the Schrodinger window? And Tim's like, no, but I assume you can tell me. And he's like, he just does that over and over and over again.
Dude, one time when he was with us, he was like, Bitcoin is kind of like Battle of the Bulge. And you remember how the Germans were doing it? And I'm like, dude, I needed an analogy for your analogy. Like please don't reference Battle of the Bulge when trying to explain a complicated topic. Like, it's like, Bitcoin's kind of like neuroscience. Like, how like the chemicals of like this and this interact this way.
Like, think of Bitcoin as the amygdala of the crypto ecosystem. Yeah. It's like, well, what's the amygdala, dude? I don't know. That's what was happening. And I guess I did that to you in this case, but
no, you're way dumber. I could totally keep up with that. It just was a good story.
No, you just talk more.
No, I thought it was good. That was a compliment. I get exhausted because I'm like so into it. Like I love hearing these stories so much.
We used to do these mastermind like dinners or hangouts where it'd be me, Sam, and like 3 other guys, and we'd meet up every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. And it would always be like, each person gets 20 minutes and you just sort of say what's going on in your business, what's working, what you want the other guys to like, basically help you think through. And those things last, basically, if you just do the math, it's like 6 people, 20 minutes each, but everybody runs 10 minutes over. And like, we start 10 minutes late. It's like, this thing is 3 hours long. And we would always start it after work. So we'd start it at like 7. It would finish at 10:30. We skipped dinner. Nobody's like gone to the bathroom. And basically there was 2 reactions. Some people were like fucking exhausted by the end of this. And they're like, oh, this was great. But like, man, next time let's try to be a little shorter. And like, I get that logically. My reaction, and we used to do some of these at your office, I remember, at the Hustle's office. I don't know if you know this. I would leave your office at 10:30, and I would go straight to my office, and I would just work for 4 or 5 straight hours because I was
I can't do that.
I was so inspired. I was like a combination of inspired by the, like, your guys' awesomeness, panicked that like, oh my God, I have so much I need to do that I now realize. And like, oh fuck, I need to do all of this. And I'm just going to try to do as much as I can tonight. And like, it was a combination of like enthusiasm and like feeling overwhelmed by like the amount of potential and ideas and like stuff I could be doing to make our stuff grow more.
No, I got to
better.
go like drink Gatorade and take a power nap. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I need to fuel up. I'm gonna go eat a Cliff Bar. I get worn out. I'm like, my blood sugar's low. I could feel it. I guess